AITA for cutting off my sister after she tore our family apart? My name is Amelia, I'm 23, and my family has always been complicated. My parents, Helen and Mark, raised us in a very strict home. Rules were rules, and questioning them wasn't an option. We weren't allowed to slam doors, speak back, or even stay out past a certain hour without getting a lecture. From the outside, we probably looked like the perfect suburban family. But on the inside, everything was about control and appearances. I have 3 siblings. My older brother Caleb, who is 25, my younger brother Evan, who's now 20, and my baby sister Mia, who's 17. Out of all of us, I was always the odd one out. While my siblings loved soccer games, group projects, and hanging out with friends, I preferred quieter things. Painting, sketching strange fantasy creatures, reading thick fantasy novels late at night. I could spend hours locked in my room, listening to music and getting lost in my own world. I wasn't antisocial, but I was different. Caleb and I got along well enough. He wasn't artistic like me, but he respected my space and even defended me a few times when our mom criticized my weird hobbies. Mia, being the youngest, mostly stayed neutral. But Evan was the golden child. He was the kid every parent wanted. Perfect grades, polite, always volunteering to do extra chores. He was also a tattletale. If any of us slipped up, stayed out too late, forgot to clean something, or broke a rule, Evan would run straight to mom to report it. And mom adored him for it. Growing up, Evan and I clashed constantly. It wasn't typical sibling bickering. He genuinely made me feel like I was failing as a daughter. I'd hear mom praising him while subtly comparing me, like, "Why can't you be more like Evan?" I won't lie, I resented him deeply for that. Things started to shift about 3 years ago. Evan sat us all down one evening and announced that he was transgender and wanted to be called Emily. It was a shock for everyone. Caleb froze. Dad looked like someone had knocked the wind out of him. Mom's eyes filled with tears, not sad ones, but almost proud tears. Within seconds, she threw her arms around Emily and said she was so brave, so special, and that our family would support her no matter what. Dad stayed silent. He didn't outright reject Emily, but his discomfort was clear. Dinner became unbearably quiet after that night. I didn't have a problem with Emily being herself. I immediately started using her name and pronouns. I thought that would be enough, but it wasn't. Over time, Emily started pushing boundaries. My boundaries, so hard that I felt like I couldn't breathe in my own home. She would barge into my room without knocking, go through my belongings, and constantly demand deep sister talks about topics I wasn't comfortable discussing. My body, my dating life, private experiences I'd never even shared with my closest friends. At first, I tried to be gentle. I told her I was happy to hang out, go for walks, watch movies, whatever, but there were certain conversations I simply wasn't okay having. She didn't listen. Instead, she accused me of rejecting her womanhood by refusing to share those things. According to her, real sisters tell each other everything. It all came to a head one afternoon. I came home from work and found her sitting cross-legged on my bed, digging through my dresser. She had my makeup scattered everywhere, my sketchbooks open, and even some personal hygiene products in her hands. My heart dropped. I snapped. I screamed at her to get out of my room, snatched my things from her, and shoved her toward the door. She burst into tears and ran to mom, sobbing that I was cruel and didn't love her. When I tried to explain, mom didn't want to hear it. "Amelia, she's just trying to bond with you," mom scolded. By going through my private things, I shouted back. Mom crossed her arms. "You need to make sacrifices for family. Emily needs you right now." For the first time in a long time, Dad spoke up. "No," he said firmly. "Amelia's privacy matters too. Emily doesn't get a free pass to invade everyone else's space." But mom refused to back down. That night marked a shift. Emily started treating me like an enemy, and mom became her constant defender. Around this time, I met Lucas. Lucas is quiet and thoughtful, a mechanic who loves working with his hands. He's the kind of person who notices small details others overlook. With him, I feel safe in a way I never have before. He never judges me for my quirks, my art, or my family drama. When Emily found out I was dating someone, she became obsessed. At first, she just asked casual questions. "What's he like? What does he do for fun?" But soon, it escalated. She started pressing for intimate details about our relationship, making suggestive jokes about stealing him, and even asking what our physical relationship was like. I shut her down every time, but she wouldn't stop. When Lucas finally came over to meet my family, I begged Emily to give him space and behave appropriately. She promised she would. She didn't. The entire evening, she followed him around like a shadow. She sat way too close on the couch, laughed loudly at everything he said, and made uncomfortable comments like, "Wow, Amelia's so lucky to have you," while staring at him. At one point, she even touched his arm and whispered something I couldn't hear. Lucas was polite, but later, in the car, he admitted he felt incredibly uncomfortable. "She scares me a little," he confessed softly. "I don't think I can come back there." That broke me. From that night on, Lucas refused to visit my parents' house. And honestly, I didn't blame him. The tension at home grew unbearable. Mom completely sided with Emily on everything, while Dad stayed silent, but visibly unhappy. Caleb started avoiding the house altogether. Mia, sweet, quiet Mia, Mia, just kept her head down and tried not to get caught in the crossfire. Emily's behavior toward me only got worse. She began accusing me of excluding her whenever I spent time with Caleb or Mia. She demanded that I include her in every outing, every conversation. If I said no, she'd cry and scream that I was abandoning her. I tried so hard to be patient, but it felt like nothing I did was ever enough. Then one night, there was a huge fight. Emily barged into my room while I was on a video call with Lucas. She started yelling about how I was keeping him all to myself and that I should let her get to know him better. I snapped. "Emily, he's my boyfriend, not yours," I shouted. She froze. Then her face twisted with rage. "You're selfish. You don't care about anyone but yourself." Mom came running, siding with Emily immediately. "Amelia, apologize to your sister right now." "No," I shouted back. "I'm done being her emotional punching bag." Mia started crying. Caleb stormed in, yelling at everyone to calm down. Dad just sat at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. That night, I knew I couldn't stay there anymore. Lucas and I had been talking about moving in together, and now it felt like the only way I'd ever have peace. I told Caleb my plan, and he offered to help me pack. Mia clung to me and begged me not to go, tears streaming down her face. "I'll still see you, I promise," I whispered, hugging her tightly. Emily screamed at me. She accused me of abandoning her during her transition, of not caring about her journey, of tearing the family apart. "I love you," I said, voice breaking, "but I need to live my own life." Since moving out, Lucas and I have been happier than ever. For the first time in years, I can breathe. Caleb visits often, and Mia comes by whenever she can. But Mom calls me constantly, leaving voicemails about how I've broken the family. Sometimes, Emily sends me long, emotional texts. She says I've ruined everything, that I'm the reason Dad barely speaks and Caleb avoids home, that Mia cries herself to sleep. Each message twists the knife deeper. The last time I visited, Emily cornered me in the driveway. She begged me to move back, sobbing that she can't do this without me. When I told her no, she screamed so loudly the neighbors came outside to watch. Mom ran out, accusing me of destroying Emily's life. I got in my car and drove away, shaking. I don't know what to do anymore. 2 weeks ago, I was getting ready for bed when my phone rang. It was Caleb. He almost never calls me this late, so my stomach immediately dropped. When I picked up, I could hear his breathing, shaky, like he'd been running or crying. "Amelia," he said, his voice breaking, "I can't do this anymore." My heart pounded. "Caleb, what happened?" He told me that earlier that night, Emily had been crying to Mom, saying that Caleb wasn't supportive of her, that he was distant and cold and didn't treat her like a real sister. Mom absolutely lost it. She stormed into Caleb's room and started yelling at him about how he was failing Emily. That's when Caleb, who has been holding back for months, finally snapped. He shouted back that Emily had been invading his privacy too, going through his desk drawers, reading his texts, even digging into his laptop and finding private photos of him and his girlfriend. When he confronted Emily about it, she laughed and said, "Families shouldn't have secrets." I could hear Caleb's anger through the phone as he described the fight. "She read my messages, Amelia. She opened folders on my computer that weren't hers to touch. She saw pictures that weren't meant for anyone but me and my girlfriend. And when I told Mom, she acted like I was the problem." Apparently, when Caleb told Mom all this, Emily denied everything, sobbing and saying Caleb was lying to turn everyone against her. Mom immediately sided with Emily, calling Caleb heartless and accusing him of being jealous because Emily was getting the attention she deserves. The shouting got so bad that Dad finally intervened. For the first time ever, Dad didn't just stay quiet. He exploded. Caleb told me he had never seen Dad so furious. He slammed his hand on the table and yelled at Mom, "This has gone far enough, Helen. Emily's transition doesn't give her the right to invade everyone's privacy and control this entire household. You've been so focused on protecting her feelings that you've ignored everyone else's." Mom screamed back that Dad was abandoning Emily and picking sides. The fight spiraled. Caleb said Mia was crying in the corner while Emily clung to Mom, playing the victim. Finally, Dad grabbed his coat and said he couldn't take it anymore. He packed a bag and left to stay with his sister for a few days. Caleb's voice shook as he told me, "Amelia, I think Dad's done. I've never seen him this broken." After we hung up, I just sat there in silence, staring at the ceiling while Lucas rubbed my back. My phone buzzed a few minutes later. It was Emily. Her text was a wall of messages, pouring in one after another. "I hope you're happy. You turned Caleb and Dad against me. If you'd stayed here and been a real sister, none of this would have happened. You're destroying our family." I didn't respond. My hands were shaking, but Lucas gently took my phone and set it on the table. "You don't have to reply to that," he said softly. The next few days were tense. Caleb came over to my place to vent, and Mia texted texted me constantly, saying she felt scared at home. Apparently, with Dad gone, Mom and Emily were like a united front, constantly ganging up on Caleb and Mia. Last weekend, I drove over to pick Mia up so she could spend the night at my apartment. When I arrived, Emily was standing by the door like she'd been waiting for me. Her eyes were red from crying, but her expression was pure anger. "You can't just waltz in here and take Mia," she snapped. "I'm just taking her out for the night," I said calmly. "We're going to hang out and watch movies." Emily's voice cracked. "You're stealing my sister from me. You've already taken Dad and Caleb's love away, and now Mia too? Do you hate me that much?" I took a deep breath. I'd been rehearsing what I needed to say for days. "Emily," I said softly, "I love you, but love doesn't mean letting you trample over me. Until you can respect my boundaries and everyone else's, we can't have a relationship. I need space." Her face crumpled. For a second, I almost reached out to hug her, but then she started screaming, "You're abandoning me. Again, you're the reason everything's falling apart." Mom came rushing in at that point, shouting at me to stop hurting Emily. Caleb appeared too, looking exhausted, and quietly told Mia to grab her bag. We slipped out the door while Emily's wails echoed behind us. That night, Mia curled up on my couch and sobbed. She told me she feels like a ghost in her own home. Mom barely notices her unless it's to compare her to Emily. And Emily constantly monitors what Mia wears, who she talks to, even how she styles her hair. "It's like she wants me to disappear so she can have Mom all to herself," Mia whispered. Hearing that broke me. Mia has always been the quiet peacemaker, and now she's caught in the crossfire. The next day, Dad called me. His voice was heavy with sadness. "Amelia," he said, "I don't think I can keep living like this. Your mother refuses to see how toxic this has become. I've been thinking about separating, maybe even divorce." My chest tightened. I'd known things were bad, but hearing him say it out loud was like a punch to the gut. "Dad, are you sure?" I asked quietly. "I don't know what else to do," he said. "Emily's happiness has become the only thing that matters to your mom. The rest of us, we're invisible." Later that evening, Lucas and I sat down with Caleb and Mia to talk about what might happen next. Caleb admitted he's been looking for his own apartment, somewhere far enough away that Emily can't just show up uninvited. Mia, on the other hand, begged us not to leave her behind. She's still a minor and terrified of being stuck alone with Mom and Emily. We made a plan for Mia to spend as much time as possible at my place until she graduates. Caleb promised to visit often and keep checking in. Meanwhile, Emily hasn't stopped texting me. The messages swing wildly between heartbreak and rage. One minute she's apologizing and begging me to come home. The next, she's accusing me of destroying her life. A few nights ago, things hit a new low. Caleb called me in the middle of the night, panicked. Emily had shown up at his workplace, causing a scene. She yelled at his boss, accusing Caleb of abandoning the family and telling everyone about his private relationship drama. Caleb was humiliated and furious. When he confronted Mom, she defended Emily again. "She's just expressing her feelings. She's hurting." Caleb yelled back, "What about my feelings? What about Mia's? What about Amelia's?" Mom just crossed her arms and said, "Emily needs us more than you do." That was the moment Caleb decided he was done. Now, our family feels like it's hanging by a thread. Dad is staying with his sister full-time. Caleb is actively apartment hunting. Mia spends every weekend at my place. And Mom and Emily, well, they're living in their own bubble, refusing to see the damage they've caused. The last time I saw Emily, she was standing in the driveway as I drove away with Mia. She screamed after me, her voice raw and desperate. "You'll regret this, Amelia. You'll regret walking away." I don't know if she meant it as a threat or a plea. Maybe both. For now, Lucas and I are focusing on building our life together. We've been talking about getting engaged, though I haven't told my family yet. It feels like adding fuel to the fire. I love Emily. I always will. But love isn't enough when it's one-sided and destructive. My hope is that someday, Emily will truly understand what boundaries mean.
You are not the Aita here. From a personal lens, your choices reflect self-preservation rather than cruelty. You respected Emily's identity, used her name, and supported her transition without hesitation. Where everything fractured was not in your acceptance of who she is, but in your refusal to let her dismantle your boundaries. Emotional closeness cannot be built on forced confessions, invasions of privacy, or competitive behavior toward your partner. Real connection thrives on consent, trust, and balance. When Emily barged into your world, your room, your belongings, your relationships, she crossed lines no sibling, regardless of circumstance, has the right to cross. A meaningful suggestion: stand firm in your limits, but do so with clarity rather than guilt. You've internalized the narrative that by protecting yourself, you're somehow tearing your family apart. That's not the truth. The fracture comes from imbalance: your mother's blind defense of Emily, your father's avoidance until it reached breaking point, and Emily's inability to see where her needs end and yours begin. It might help to establish written boundaries, messages or letters, not to convince them, but to anchor your own clarity when their accusations try to distort your reality. Another perspective: your father's eruption is telling. The quiet ones rarely explode without years of pent-up frustration. His words confirmed what you've been feeling all along: your pain was never imaginary, and your voice was never unreasonable. The family dynamic shifted only when his silence ended, showing that the household's imbalance has long been recognized but ignored. That recognition validates you. Now for a joke to lighten the heaviness. Your home basically turned into a reality TV show no one signed up for, except the producers forgot to give anyone a break room to vent privately. Imagine Big Brother, but instead of a cash prize, the winner just gets their laundry folded without commentary on whether you are the Aita, you're not. Protecting your autonomy is not selfish, it's essential. But at the same time, you're not spotless. Slamming doors, shouting, or withdrawing in anger may have amplified tensions, even if they were understandable reactions to relentless provocation. In that sense, moments of lashing out could make you feel like the Aita. But fundamentally, the core issue is not your behavior, it's the refusal of others to respect your space. So, can you be both the Aita and not the Aita? Yes, in the sense that frustration led you to actions you wouldn't normally choose. But the heart of the matter is this: you've been carrying the emotional weight of a dysfunctional structure. Protecting yourself, protecting Lucas, and protecting Mia does not make you the villain. It makes you the one breaking a toxic cycle. My final insight: Emily's pain is real, but pain never justifies trampling over others. Until she learns that, reconciliation will remain fragile. Your role isn't to fix her or your mother, it's to hold your ground, protect your peace, and give Mia an example of strength when everything around her feels unstable. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments.
AITA for taking back my gifts after my sister kept losing them. My name is Maris, and I live with my younger sister, Talia. I'm 20, and she's 17. Living with Talia has always felt like walking through a storm, unpredictable, chaotic, and exhausting. She's messy, forgetful, and has an irritating habit of taking my things without asking. I try to be patient, but constantly replacing the items she loses or ruins is draining. It all started a month ago when Talia was assigned to do the dishes one evening. She whined nonstop, pacing around the kitchen, claiming she couldn't just stand there in silence and needed music to survive the torture. I had just gotten home after a brutal 12-hour shift. My body ached, my brain felt fried, but I handed her my wireless earbuds. Surely, they'd come back in one piece. The next morning, they were gone. Where are my earbuds? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. I don't know, she shrugged. I put them down somewhere. We tore the living room apart, under the couch, inside cushions, even in the laundry, but nothing. A day later, she found them under the couch. I didn't press it. Maybe she had misplaced them. Then, a few days later, they disappeared again. This time, they didn't turn up at all. My patience was thinning, but I didn't want to start another fight. Then came last week. Talia lost her sketchbook. This wasn't just any sketchbook. It was filled with art class notes, sketches, and her creative ideas. She panicked, tearing apart our shared bedroom. My blanket was thrown onto the floor, my makeup organizer spilled across the desk, and my jewelry and keepsakes were scattered everywhere. Talia, what are you doing? I shouted, my voice shaking with a mix of disbelief and anger. I'm looking for my sketchbook. You probably moved it, she snapped. Why would I touch your sketchbook? Look at this mess. You're destroying my stuff. She didn't care, not even a little. I left the room to cool down, my blood boiling. Later that night, I desperately needed my earbuds for my long bus ride. I carefully moved Talia's things, hoping the earbuds hadn't vanished completely. She woke up mid-search and immediately started yelling, "Don't touch my stuff. You're so disrespectful. I'm literally looking for the earbuds you lost," I said, trying to remain calm. Then she slapped me hard. I froze. Before I could react, she hit me again, screaming about me invading her space. That was it. I snapped. Fine. If you can't respect my things, give me back everything I've ever given you, I said, my voice trembling with anger. She froze, clutching the box of gifts I had given her, a limited edition lip gloss, a set of art markers I had surprised her with last year, and other little things she loved. You can't just take back gifts because you're mad, she shouted. I'm not being petty. You've lost or destroyed nearly everything I've ever let you borrow. I'm done, I said. She moved the box away from me, and when I reached for it, she kicked me in the stomach. Pain shot through me, but I refused to back down. I lunged again, and she kicked me harder, sending me stumbling back. You're psycho, she screamed, throwing the box across the room. Papers, small trinkets, and markers flew everywhere. I couldn't breathe. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. I heard her crying, sobbing into her pillow, but at that point, I was too drained to care. The next day, Talia refused to speak to me unless it was to insult me. She posted vague messages online about living with a toxic sister who ruins everything. My mom called, pressuring me to apologize, saying Talia was just sensitive. But I couldn't see how I was in the wrong when every day had been filled with lost, broken, or stolen things. The days that followed were unbearable. Talia began accidentally leaving crumbs on my side of the room, spilling drinks on my notebooks, and hiding my textbooks when I needed them. Every interaction felt like a potential fight. One evening, I came home to to find the kitchen a disaster. Dishes piled high, half-eaten snacks scattered across the counter. Talia sat at the table, sketchbook in hand, headphones on, ignoring the chaos. Talia, look at this. You can't just leave a mess everywhere. I'm busy, she said, not even looking up. Busy? You're wasting your time destroying our home. She laughed, a sharp, mocking sound that made my blood boil. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I wouldn't have to sneak around. I grabbed her sketchbook, trying to make a point. Maybe if you respected my things, we wouldn't be in this mess. She snatched it back. Don't touch my stuff. You're insane. And just like that, another fight erupted. Doors slammed, chairs toppled, yelling echoed through the house. I shook with anger and exhaustion. I wanted to leave, but leaving felt like admitting defeat. Days turned into a week of tension. Silence hung thick, punctuated by slammed doors, muttered insults, or the occasional sob. I avoided meals with her, slept with earplugs, and stayed out of the living room entirely. It's been 3 weeks since that fight, and things have only gotten messier. Every day feels like walking through a minefield, never knowing when the next explosion will hit. The air in our house is thick with tension. Even the walls feel like they're holding their breath, waiting for something to break. 2 days after I posted about the fight online, I got a text from Talia while I was at work. I almost dropped my phone when I saw her name pop up. The message was long, agonizingly long, and dripping with drama. She wrote about how I had betrayed her trust and how she was heartbroken that I had taken back the lip gloss and markers. According to her, I wasn't acting like a sister anymore. I was a monster who didn't understand her, and the only way she could ever forgive me was if I apologized profusely and publicly. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands were shaking, my stomach twisting. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Any answer from me would only be fuel for the fire she had clearly been building. Later that night, I got a call from my cousin, Sam. He sounded concerned, almost panicked. Maris, what's going on with Talia? He asked. She's been telling everyone in the family that you slapped her, that you're jealous of her, that I don't even know. People are talking. My heart sank. I tried to explain what had really happened, how she had kicked me, how she had trashed my things, and how I hadn't touched her unless trying to get my gifts back. But Sam's voice had that hesitant, unsure tone that made me feel like no one believed me. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up. Texts from aunts, uncles, even distant cousins accusing me of bullying Talia flooded in. I could feel tears stinging my eyes, a mixture of frustration, helplessness, and rage. I called my mom, hoping she'd have my back. Mom, she's lying, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Talia is twisting everything. I didn't hit her. She hit me. I could hear her sigh over the line. Maris, I know, but Talia's been having a hard time lately. Just try to let it go. My chest tightened. That was the gut punch I didn't need. Let it go. After 3 weeks of nonstop tension, after being kicked, screamed at, and misrepresented to everyone I cared about, let it go sounded like a cruel joke. Things came to a head when our older brother, Caleb, came home for the weekend. He's usually easygoing and avoids drama, but even he couldn't ignore the hostility in the house. He immediately noticed the way Talia avoided eye contact with me, how she shot daggers with every word, how the atmosphere was thick with silent hostility. Something is off, Caleb said quietly to me one evening. I can feel it. What's going on between you two? I hesitated, then told him everything, step by step. By the next morning, he confronted Talia. Talia, enough, he said firmly. I've seen how you've been treating Maris. This has to stop. At first, Talia played the victim beautifully. Tears welled in her eyes as she sobbed. I feel unsafe. Maris is always attacking me, always controlling everything I do. She even tried to grab Caleb's arm for sympathy, but Caleb wasn't buying it. His patience had a limit. I've heard enough of your lies, Talia. You've been manipulating everyone around you, twisting facts to make yourself the victim. That ends now. Talia's face went red. You're taking her side. You've always loved her more than me, she screamed, grabbing her phone and waving it like a weapon. Then, with a smirk that sent chills down my spine, she hit the live button and started broadcasting the argument to her social media followers. Exposing my abusive family, she shouted to the camera, her voice dripping with fake outrage. Comments flooded in almost immediately. Friends, acquaintances, strangers, they were all weighing in, taking sides. Some called her brave, others horrified by my behavior. My phone started buzzing nonstop. Lucas, my boyfriend, called me immediately, frantic. Maris, are you okay? I saw the live. People are saying awful things about you. I couldn't answer. I felt trapped, humiliated, and furious all at once. The next day, my dad, who usually avoids conflict, finally intervened. He had a long, serious talk with Talia, laying out exactly how her behavior had been toxic, destructive, and manipulative. For the first time, someone besides me confronted her directly. He even confiscated her phone temporarily. Talia locked herself in her room, screaming, crying, and pounding on on the door for hours. But when she finally emerged, she was eerie, calm, controlled, almost unreadable. She didn't apologize to me or anyone else. Instead, she posted a long, cryptic message on her social media account. She admitted to lying about some things and hinted at regret, but it was all about herself, not me. She framed herself as the tragic figure who made mistakes but was learning. The next day, she knocked on my door. I froze when I saw her standing there, silently holding a small box. Inside were the lip gloss and art markers, the very items at the center of our fight. She didn't speak, didn't even look me in the eye. She simply handed them to me and walked away. I was stunned. Relief and anger mingled in my chest. It wasn't reconciliation, far from it, but it was something. A tiny crack in the tension, maybe. Since then, the house has been quieter. Talia isn't friendly, but she isn't lashing out violently anymore. My mom has admitted she might have been too quick to defend her. Caleb checks in with me occasionally, giving me subtle reassurance that he's on my side. Even so, the emotional wounds linger. I catch myself tensing every time Talia walks by, bracing for another verbal attack or prank. I feel guilty for feeling relieved about the peace, knowing it's fragile and could shatter in an instant. I've been making plans to move out in a few months when my lease with Lucas starts. Part of me hopes distance will bring relief, a chance to breathe without fear of the next storm. Part of me wonders if, even then, Talia and I could ever repair our relationship.
Maris, this ordeal illustrates an exhausting cycle where responsibility, dignity, and truth are constantly contested, and it is clear that the heart of the problem rests on fractured respect rather than sibling rivalry. From my perspective, you are not the Aita for demanding accountability, lending your earbuds, only to see them vanish, watching personal belongings scattered as if they were disposable, and being struck physically after calmly seeking what belonged to you. These are not hallmarks of harmless immaturity, they are patterns of disregard that no sibling should be expected to tolerate. Your refusal to keep absorbing the damage, your insistence that gifts be returned, and your determination to draw lines in the sand are not cruelty, they are self-preservation. Yet, at the same time, I must acknowledge that you are the Aita in moments where your desperation erupted in escalating confrontations, grabbing the sketchbook, or engaging in tug-of-war over possessions. Those actions, though born of frustration, mirror the very chaos you resent and gave your sister opportunities to frame herself as a victim. My suggestion is that you separate strategy from reaction. Instead of entering battles that only generate more ammunition for her manipulation, retreat into careful documentation, firm boundaries, and consistent reinforcement of limits. Your family's dynamic also reveals how unchecked narratives flourish. Your mother's tendency to excuse Talia's behavior undermines your credibility, while extended relatives amplify distorted accounts. To counter this, enlist allies who have directly observed events, Caleb, your father, even Lucas, as anchors of truth, because truth from multiple witnesses resists distortion more effectively than solitary protest. Personally, I see this as an environment where your psychological safety must outweigh the pressure to maintain appearances. Preparing to move out is not abandonment, it is an act of reclaiming peace. My personal insight: when trust within a household crumbles, reconciliation cannot be forced through apologies extracted under pressure. It requires recognition of harm by the one who caused it, and that recognition is not yet present in Talia's behavior. Finally, let me add a joke to keep this heavy story breathable. Your home sounds less like a place to rest and more like an unpaid reality show where producers keep raising the drama but forgot to include commercial breaks for sanity. So, are you the Aita or not? You are both the Aita when anger dragged you into fights that mirrored her tactics, and not the Aita when you asserted your right to respect, protection, and truth. This duality does not make you weak or hypocritical, it makes you human, trying to survive in a storm where calm rarely lasts. My advice: step away, rebuild from distance, and let maturity, not constant conflict, be the test of whether reconciliation is possible later. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out AITA for messing with my neighbor who won't stop spreading lies. Click here to watch it now.